Minister talks about a clever deal, and he doesn't really explain what it could be, though. What do you think it could entail?
No, he doesn't state exactly what it could be, and I think that's partly the nature of a German foreign minister making remarks. He's making remarks that he hopes will influence a situation rather than coming up with concrete proposals. So this is a classic, I suppose, of Germany trying to just nudge a debate in a particular direction. But one thing that does concern me about what's in this, it certainly sounds very positive on the face of it, the idea that you've got some sort of smart deal that would enable the UK and the EU to get along well as neighbours. But there is a concern in there because he does speak a little bit about regulatory alignment and keeping UK regulations and EU regulations close to each other. And until we know what they mean by that, there has to be a danger that could impact on Britain's sovereignty and Britain's ability to make our own laws. So there is a big caveat there.
All right, well, Germany, of course, does have its own reasons, doesn't it, for wanting a smooth Brexit. The car industry, huge export business for them. So what you're saying, that they're in it for themselves over this rather than us?
Well, look, of course, everybody would like to have a smooth Brexit deal that allows the UK to trade very easily and in a comprehensive manner with the European Union with the minimum tariffs possible and the minimum trade barriers possible. So that's certainly in everybody's best interest to ensure that that happens. I suppose where the sticking point here could come is in terms of regulations. Well, what the European Union will try to do is they'll simply try to use weight of numbers to try to push the UK into retaining regulations that are incredibly close to EU regulations. Now, of course, if you sell into an EU market, you'd expect to obey EU regulations. That's not a problem. When we sell into the US market, we have to obey US regulations to do that. Of course we do. What we don't want to do is to find ourselves in a situation in which the UK has to obey any EU regulations when we're trading with ourselves or with anyone else outside the European Union.
So what you're suggesting, Jonathan, really is that you're worried that the government could do a compromise over whether it stays in the single market or the customs union, or come up with some sort of fudge compromise, because Turkey, interestingly enough, is mentioned here, where a soft customs union could be actually imposed with a future relationship with the EU. So are you concerned that the government taking on its hard Brexit approach could actually perhaps have to compromise?
I don't see anything here that suggests that the government should have to compromise. What I see, though, is something coming here from Germany that sounds very, very positive on the face of it, using very positive language, and which may well have some positives within it. But the question is, to what extent would that impact on UK regulations? And that is something that we simply don't know yet, because based on what the German foreign minister has said, he's said something clearly that is intended to start a debate. He's not said something which is intended to put a firm proposal on the table.
Right, but as you say, you do admit that there is some optimism here, some positivity. Do you think this, of course, is a statement coming from just one man? Do you think other foreign ministers, indeed leaders, are perhaps in line with his sentiments, and particularly the talk of a bespoke trade agreement with the UK?
Well, there has to be a bespoke trade agreement with the UK. I mean, it's the nature of what the European Union has done for years. They've negotiated trade deals with different countries, and if there isn't a trade deal that works for what they want to do next, then you negotiate a new one. So that's not something that is any surprise. Of course, it would have to be a bespoke agreement with a country the size of the UK and the proximity to the EU of the UK. So I don't think there's any surprise that would be the case, but it certainly does have that element of a positive when at least we've now got them talking about it openly. And you know, it seems to me that it's one of the things that Barnier has been pushing in completely in a direction that is very much unhelpful at times on this, and certainly any pressure coming from Germany. You know, the whole of the European Union situation operates in a very untransparent, very difficult to comprehend kind of way. And in some ways, what you do is you read the mood music that's coming, and what you see from Germany is normally very strong.